Hey gang, so CIG has dropped the new numbers on us. It's been about 2 months since the last time they dropped these on us, so I'm going to go through and do my usual thing where I go ahead and talk about the roadmap, all the updates, and all the stuff that's coming in. So I recommend just go ahead and grab a beverage. I've got my mint chocolate chip ice cream shake from Baskin Robbins here, so... So we're back. Okay, so let's see. We're going to go ahead and go through, and I guess I could start with the caveats here. First thing that I'd like to say on this is kind of my usual lead-in that I am just a guy. I am just doing the internet. I am just looking at these numbers, drawing my own conclusions, both from what CIG has said in the past and based on the numbers that I'm seeing here. So it's just kind of inference on my part. I don't have any sort of inside information. The other thing that I always like to say on these is this right here. These just represent sprints. So this is just the amount of time that CIG has currently allocated. And you'll notice as I scroll down through here, nothing is going past this line, which represents today. That's because they're still scheduling things out. It doesn't mean nobody's working. It just means that they haven't planned out the schedule for all this stuff. So just because something is wrapped and finished does not mean it's actually done. It just means that that may be all of the planned sprints that they have for that deliverable for right now. And something that was done 2 years ago, they might swing back to now that they have access to new tech. So that's the other caveat, is just because something is done does not mean that it has more work, or it doesn't have more work that's left to do. Just because something has weeks and weeks and weeks of work to do doesn't mean they might not cut it short or deliver that part in sections to us. And there's usually a couple examples of that, but again, because they haven't stretched the timeline out yet, we don't necessarily know for sure. So what I do in this show is I start with the Roundup, just kind of read through. This one's meaty because, again, it's been 2 months since they've actually talked to us. And then I go in, I kind of confirm stuff in the release view, just kind of give my thoughts about what's in there and what isn't in there. And then I actually go through the deliverables and talk about them. This time I'm going to talk about a bit more because, again, it's been a couple months since we've done this. So I just thought that I'd kind of do a refresher of things I expect to see this year and also things that I expect to see 323. And things that I think aren't even on the progress tracker that are probably dropping to us soon, and things that they've dropped hints on. So that sounds good. Let's get this. All right, so this is the roadmap roundup. Skip the part at the top. Notable changes for February 7th, 2024. Release view. Replication layer update. Testing continues for this important update to the Persistent Universe's back-end database. Hot. This release will remain fluid in regards to timing as edge cases are solved and performance is optimized. With this publish, we're moving this card to the Alpha 323 column, but keep an eye on Spectrum and the Tech Preview channel for the latest on the replication layer. That one is huge. The following card has been added to release view, targeting a release in the Alpha 322 patch cycle. So we are getting another patch for Alpha 322, probably a March patch if I had to guess. Arena Commander Gravlev Racing. And one of the things they're doing now that I've kind of been arguing about for years, I'm Evocati, is that they release at least the Evocati patch notes wide, just let people know what's in the Evocati patch notes. I think that we're kind of to the point in this project where the NDA on Evocati isn't really necessary. I still follow it because I am a paralegal. I just kind of think its time has passed. We don't really need to use it anymore. There's no reason to keep things secret anymore. I think that it would be better served. Probably still maintain Evocati as your most reliable testers who give the best feedback. Not a bad idea. But maintaining it under NDA, I think that time has kind of passed. But again, I signed an NDA, so I will honor it. But anyway, introducing the new experimental mode to Arena Commander featuring Gravlev vehicles racing through 5 new maps. the Snake Pit, which isn't new, the Snake Pit Reverse, Cleo Islands, that's new, River's Edge, and Shifting Sands. So I've started going through some of the racetracks. I don't think any of those are in there. The Snake Pit is. Snake Pit Reverse isn't, but the other one, Cleo Islands, River's Edge, and Shifting Sands, I don't think any of those are in there. So that'll be cool. Good to see new locations. Well, new locations on existing locations. Anyway, the following cards have been added to release view in Alpha 323 patch cycle, currently targeting April 2024. That is interesting. So I have kind of been waffling on whether 323 would be a March release or a June release, just based on all the stuff that was in there. April is just kind of just a hair after March, so sounds like they're targeting that one. So this 322 with this thing probably coming within a month, I'd guess. I don't think that they'd drop a 322 patch on us and then immediately drop a 323. They've done it before, though. But anyway, these are all the things that are going to be in 323, so buckle up. Star Map rework. Huge deal. Implementing the new and improved star map and improving visuals and usability, including easier search and trip planning functionality, which we don't even have search or trip planning functionality right now. So that's right there an amazing step up. Mobieglass rework. Reworking the Mobieglass system to use building blocks, which is huge. It's lesser memory, so it also runs faster, which will also allow for easier development of Mobieglass apps. This update includes reworked home maps, contract manager, and journal apps. FPS map system. So this is your first person walking around system. It is the star map. It's the same map, but it starts in your local area. Implementing a mini map for the HUD. Oh, okay, so this is something different. As well as in interior maps for FPS gameplay, helping players stay oriented in close quarter encounters. That is pretty cool. Personal and instanced hangars. This is also a big deal. Creating new tech that creates an instance of the player's hangar to allow for uninterrupted management of cargo, inventory, and vehicles. Personal hangars are found at the player's home location and allow for customization and organization of hangar interior. So some of you might not remember, or maybe weren't here in the very early days of this project, but basically in those days, before we could actually go out and fly around the verse, we had these hangars, and that is where you could go and you could look at your ship. You could climb onto your ship, walk around it, look at it. You couldn't fly it, but you were in this hangar. But they had a whole bunch of stuff, and you can still see this. You'll hear me joking about beard moss. It's basically a kind of, not an arboretum, a little container with moss growing in it, basically. They had a bunch of little things like that were basically just hangar decorations that they had to roll out because we couldn't fly around our ships. So they had to have something for people to kind of come back and keep them interested. You can still buy those things on the store, but now they're going to be bringing those hangars back, but they will exist in the PU and they will be persistent. So what you put in them and what you store in them will be available in the game. Freight elevators, implementation of systems and content for players to physically load and unload cargo to and from their ships by conveying cargo to and from hangars, landing pads, garages, and docking collars. This was one of the sneak peeks, I think a week ago or so, but these sort of trolleys here, or sort of carts, Gravlev carts, are going to be things that will be available. I wouldn't be shocked if you'll actually be able to buy one or two of these. I mean, they're selling a golf cart. This is far more useful than a golf cart. And I would want one on like my C2 or something like that, just to be able to load and unload quickly, because people are going to be stealing these things from the locations. Just saying. Item bank and unique item recovery. This is interesting. Adding item bank kiosks to the persistent universe, allowing players to retrieve and store FPS items at multiple locations. Huh. This edition will also allow players to retrieve lost account-bound items such as subscriber flare. So that might be their solution. My solution was you could get subscriber flare back, but you say it's made at a store on Earth. It has to be shipped to you. So the further out into the verse you are from Earth, the longer it's going to be until you get that subscriber item back. Was kind of my solution. They're apparently going a different direction. New missions, cargo hauling. Making use of freight elevators feature, this mission type will have players hauling large quantities of cargo to earn both AUEC and reputation. Kind of a big deal. The fact that they're utilizing freight elevators tells me that it might not be related to the whole sea, which the whole sea has had some issues since it launched. It'd be nice if they could get that one fixed up. Anyway, dynamic crosshair. Combat helmets now support the dynamic crosshair, which allows for quicker target acquisition in close quarter situations. Kind of cool. EVA Tier 2, hugely needed. Improved EVA controls and animations for smoother traversal in 0G. Later iterations will introduce a limited EVA feel and encourages the use of 0G push-pull in the multi-tools tractor beam. FPS loot screen, introducing a new screen for looting critical systems quickly, allowing for more reliable inventory management in tense situations. They showed that off at SitCon. Definitely go back and look at that. Pretty much everything at SitCon is worth watching. New character customizer, implementing an overhaul of the player character creator for Star Citizen, including a new user interface and additional customization options. That was something I thought they would actually drop in December. They didn't. Apparently, they're going to be dropping in April. Around April. Visor and lens HUD rework, converting the visor and lens systems to building blocks for improved performance and flexibility. Pretty cool. Distribution centers. This is the new underground. So the huge bunkers, that's what these are. Creating new traversable areas offering gameplay opportunities in corporate industrial environments. This initial release includes the surface levels of the facilities, with underground areas coming in later updates. In a later update. So that's interesting. So yeah, either way, these are huge facilities. So even if we're getting the upper levels, will still probably be a significant amount of area, like larger than any of the current, just not the landing zones, but the outposts and stuff. These will be bigger than that, to the point where I think distribution centers will eventually replace most of those. Dynamic event, Blockade Runner. Introducing a new dynamic event that involves a criminal faction, Ninetales, locking down a Leo, and L1, L2 rest stops. Players must run the blockade and purchase and sell a percentage of Quantanium before time runs out. I'm down. Reputation, hostility. This is one that I figured was coming pretty soon, so it's cool that it's dropped. Adding a new feature to the reputation system where players will encounter AI that are either friendly or hostile based on their reputation with the organization the AI belongs to. The AI belong to. Oh, I guess AI in that case is plural. This also includes different friendly fire thresholds and defense responses. So if you're friendly with someone and you shoot them, you'll get a couple of those. If you're unfriendly and you shoot them, you won't. Player interaction experience. Implementing the updated player interaction experience. A holistic array of complementary features and systems, all related directly to the player. Player status, item status, environmental status, as well as interactions with both the game world and objects within it are covered under these systems. Master modes, implementing new modes to vehicle to manage their speed, components, and role-specific functions. This release introduces the nav and SEM modes, as well as a complete retuning of all ships. That's it for this week. No progress tracker updates this week as work continues in long-term planning. And that is what I was saying in the intro. Join the issue Spectrum. Yeah, if the same 4 gatekeepers are still active on Spectrum, that is fighting an uphill battle. But who knows? So that's the roadmap roundup. There's a lot of meat in there. Let's pop on over here. So they did say they added Arena Commander Gravelev Racing. There it is. It's committed, so it's coming, which is interesting. Yeah, I'm guessing probably by the end of February we'll probably get a new 322 patch. It doesn't seem like that would be a very hard thing to sneak in, so get that and a couple little perks that we don't know about. Probably a new event because the servers handled the last one so well. I'm not better. So here we go. We've got characters, the new character customizer. That was the one that we saw at SitCon. Looks amazing. Distribution centers. Again, you can guys see. Let's see if I can see the picture here. Yeah. So there you go. Great big bunker. So, I mean, you're getting all of this zone. So that right there is a small landing pad. This one's a large. And when I say a large, I mean maybe not reclaimer size, but it's big. Like C2 could land in that. And like a Gladius could land there. These are large structures. Visorland HUD rework. Let's see if it actually shows a picture. Not much of one. You can kind of see what they're doing there. But again, SitCon, go back, watch it. Personal and instanced hangars. You can see all of your vehicles can be in there, which is a big deal. Moby Glass rework. This is cool that they're starting to do like the 3D thing that we saw. Man, when they first concepted the Moby Glass, they had such cool concepts for it. It looks like now that they're migrating it to building blocks, they might actually be able to start pulling those off. FPS loot screen, so you can kind of see it here. Basically, things are up here, and as opposed to having to, especially for me, you can't see it, but I have an ultra wide screen. So I mean, I'm basically grabbing from way off screen here and dropping way off screen here. Trying to do that in a firefight, you will die. So not worth it. Something like this, much quicker, much cleaner. It's good to see them learning. The FPS map system. So this one actually is the star map. This one is for local areas, but you can zoom out and zoom out and zoom out. And the more you zoom out, you eventually see the star map. It's the same map. This is also the map that they're going to be using for engineering, the engineering loop. So we'll kind of get to play with it in this mode for a little while until they drop that on us. New missions, cargo hauling. Again, cargo hauling has needed a lot of work. I've heard a lot of speculation in the community that Tony Z might have soft quit, or I don't know if that's the technical term for it, but if they kind of pulled Quantum away from him, and he's kind of like, well, okay, I'll stay on the payroll, but I'm basically done with this project because that was my baby. I don't think that's what's happening, and until they actually say Tony Z has left us to go pursue other opportunities, I wouldn't read too much into those rumors. I think Quanta is still on target. I just think that's something they're working in kind of an intermediate economy that's maybe not quite as complex, but will feed Quanta moving forward. And I'm going to believe that until I hear otherwise, which might be real soon. We'll see. Dynamic event blockade rare. That one sounds fun. I love pulling my oh wow, don't start a sentence with that. I love pulling out the MSR and running around the MSR. Player interaction experience. This is the one where it has like the little F's show up on everything, and you can choose how that interaction's default is. So either you store something, or you equip it, or you inspect it, or whatever. You can sort of set that up on the wheel so that every time you come up to an item in that category, it does that action automatically, or you can call up the wheel and do the other one if you don't want to do the default this time. EVA Tier 2, we will be Iron Manning now, which maybe not super realistic, but will definitely make EVA way easier. Reputation hostility, AI responses to player reputation, including defense and friendly fire. So again, if you are a pirate, Ninetales might not attack you. Star map rework, again, this you can sort of see this is the Mobiglass right here. This is the FPS map zoomed all the way out. Item bank and unique item recovery, kind of cool. There have been times when I have lost a sub item that's pretty rare, like from years and years ago that you can't really get now. And I'm just kind of like, damn it, okay, well, I guess I gotta wait 6 months until they reset the patch. So giving people some option to get those items back that they paid real money for, we knew they were going to do something. This is apparently their solution. Freight elevators, again, not only cargo that you buy at stations or sell at stations. So real quick how this will work, if you haven't followed production, is in the hangar, you'll have this freight elevator that'll come up. You can load it with anything that you have in that station's inventory, like vehicles and stuff like that too, but also cargo. So if you go to a station, or we saw a preview a couple weeks ago where they showed one of these freight elevators at an outpost. And so now, as opposed to just landing and having your ship magically fill with cargo, you're going to have a freight elevator that'll come up with a bunch of cargo boxes like this, and you're going to have to use the tractor beam to load them all onto your ship. And then when you go to another station or a place to sell it, you'll have to manually unload all that stuff into the freight elevator before you can sell it. So, yeah, will definitely change the way the game is played. Will it be too tedious for most players? I don't know. They're completely reworking the economy. So if they make that cost benefit worth it, could be worth it. Master modes, of course, it seems like this is mostly just impacting the combat pilots, which I don't do a lot of dogfighting in this game, so it doesn't impact me as heavily, but it could one day. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to have to fight in my ship eventually, and master modes will have an effect, or I'll need to get away from people that are attacking me. Hopefully I have plenty of escorts. Dynamic crosshair. This one was subtle. It just sort of looked like it projected a crosshair in the middle of the screen, and it kind of moved around like while you're moving your gun. So as opposed to having to look down the sights every time, you could just use that crosshair as kind of like a smart link, or I forget what they call it in Cyberpunk, but smart link is what they call it in Shadowrun. Basically, the visor has where your gun is pointed, even if you're like shooting from the hip. Replication layer update, there we go. If we get that in 3.23, that is a huge, huge deal. So there's the release view. Again, if you ever want to see where we are at in production as far as the patches go, if you look up here, the PTU is live and it's 3.22.1. I believe, I thought our live version right now is 3.22.1, so maybe they haven't upgraded that or updated that yet. Yeah, let's pop on over to the progress tracker. Okay, so this is the progress tracker. This is basically where they lay out most of the deliverables they're going to do. Not all of them, but they always have some things in here that will show up on the release view that don't show up on here, or like a small part of them is part of one of these deliverables, or one of these deliverables is a small part of something over here. And so it's not always a one-to-one, but you can get like a broad idea of what is being worked on and how much work is going into it, how much focus is on it. So if you see something that seems like it's a pretty big deliverable and it has 4 weeks of work on it, it's the narrative team. That's another thing I do is I drop this down so you can see the individual teams that are working on it. You can also click over here on the teams and sort of see how many people from that team are working on a given deliverable. But anyway, you can look at this and sort of say, okay, well, if it's running 5 weeks and it's just the narrative team doing on it, it's just an exploration. They're just trying to get down like a design document for this thing. Whereas if it's something like this that's gone 50 weeks and it's got the Montreal team and the EU team are both working on this pretty heavily, that means that's something that's actually going to get into production. It is getting to us. And of course, the additional derelict settlements, well, I'll get to them in a second here. Let's go ahead and pop through. So Actor Status 2, I've been talking about this one, seems like for 2 years now, but this is the one that I think is kind of a sneaky tier 1. If we've got tier 0 of medical gameplay right now, I think this will be tier 1. So this is Actor Status tier 2, looks at a variety of new elements such as hygiene, NPC status tracking, multiple bites, DNA integrity, medical insurance, cybernetic limbs, and cloning. That'll be pretty huge. So I have a feeling they're kind of holding this one back for Pyro. Like right now, you're being in Stanton means that you have access to better medical facilities. Even someplace like Grim Hex benefits from being right next to Orison. So it is going to be a different story when you go to Pyro, which doesn't have access to the same medical facilities or even medical professionals. When you start taking those tier 2 or tier 1 injuries, it might start adding up. Like you might lose the use of an arm. And as someone who just got a tier 2 injury on their arm in Siege of Orison, it is really hard to hold that gun on target. So heads up. Lose a head. Who knows? Additional derelict settlements. So again, this is a good example of this one has wrapped. It hasn't wrapped. They are going to be doing derelict settlements for the next 5 years. And when you see this bar stretch out and out and out and out into the next year, it doesn't mean that they aren't going to be delivering it to us in sections. Just like they're doing now, they'll probably drop 3 or 4 on us each patch, especially when Pyro rolls out. I expect to see a bunch of them, but they'll just keep making these. As long as they're making ships, they'll make derelict settlements. As long as they're making locations, they'll be rolling these things out. But derelict settlements, kind of a cool one. Look forward to seeing what we get for both Stanton and Pyro moving forward. Aegis Retaliator Gold Standard. This is one that in theory has been done for a while, but we know they're still working on it. So again, this is one of those situations where the roadmap is saying one thing, but the reality is saying the other. We know we're getting the Retaliator layer this year thanks to SitCon, and it'll be implementing modularity. Either that or the MPUV will be the first truly modular ship. The MPUV, you can pull off the personnel and or container and put on a cargo one, or I believe the MPUV will be able to actually move the big crates around. We've seen that in the whole SEAD. I'm going to kind of start ripping through these and just kind of give like a quick sense or two of what I think about them. If I hit one that I think is extremely interesting or important, I'll focus on it a bit more, but now I'm going to start moving a little bit faster. Aerodynamic control surfaces, fully expect to see that in next 6 to 9 months. I don't know if it would drop a 323, but I would expect to see it's the aerons that basically, if you've got a ship that's shaped like an arrow, it's going to fly much better than something that's shaped like a caterpillar that's basically just a big brick when in atmosphere, because it's actually got flight planes and controls. AI arcade machine. So this is not just because of the arcade machine. Sort of see that they've got a whole mess of AI here. As the replication layer comes in and the pressure comes off of the servers, AI should start acting a lot more naturally. And that's kind of what we're looking for here with this. we know that when FPS, server FPS is starting to drop below 5, the NPCs just become derpy. Like they'll just walk in circles, stand on chairs, they'll hold still. They won't do what they're supposed to. This should significantly improve that to the point where CIG might have to actually start dialing back bad guy AI because they will be so effective. Anvil Legionnaire, we know we're getting this one later this year. It is the boarding ship. You could use it as a drop ship in a pinch, but it will come with hacking gameplay, which I think will be more near the end of the year. Although if 323 is dropping in April, I could see us getting like a July patch or something like that, but I would think the Legionnaire would probably be closer to September. New racetracks. This one was one that was released in 320. I'm just kind of using it as a marker. They're going to be releasing those Gravlev tracks. I wouldn't be shocked if they start pulling in more tracks from Stanton and beyond and start putting them in Arena Commander. That was always their plan. Artificial gravity, that'll be a big one. That'll be coming with engineering. I'll be pointing out a few that are engineering ones. Hopefully we'll be seeing engineering and that kind of gameplay by the end of the year. Again, I would expect that to be September-ish rather than like April, June, July, somewhere in there. We're definitely getting some sort of a patch in June, but if they're dropping 323 in April, I would assume it's going to be a 323.x patch. Asteroid facilities. So this is one that had work done on it 53 weeks ago. I think that this one will probably be, if I were going to give Rastar to the players, this is probably where I would start it, because as opposed to allowing players to build bases anywhere on the surface of a planet, and in theory this is something that's coming to us by the end of this year, some implementation of it, I would give them asteroids, because then you could control the surface area that the base could fill up, and you can kind of control where it is. So you could sort of say it's in the air in Halo. You got to go out there and find the right kind of asteroid in order to make a base. Would be the way to do it. That said, making bases in 0G would probably be harder than just dropping them on the ground. So maybe not. Being Merchantman, this one's wishful thinking on my part. I think if they can spin up enough ship devs from the Squadron 42 teams and Montreal and new hires and stuff like that, they might start taking another crack at the Merchantman. I don't believe it would be released this year, but they might start working on it again this year, probably near the end of the year, start working on it, would be my guess. Boreal Stalker. So the way Jared is smiling and sort of saying, yeah, we're going to sneak a few things in there and just sort of let you find them, I think it's going to be animals. And I would not be shocked if the Boreal Stalker, a hostile creature that's the size of like a polar bear, that is something I could see them sneaking in. In fact, I was kind of surprised they didn't sneak that in already. But considering the state of the servers, it'd probably just be T-posing or standing on a rock. Anyway, Bounty Hunter V2, this is one that I would assume they're going to drop with Pyro. It would make sense to drop this one with Pyro, either when they drop Pyro or immediately following. This one requires, rather than getting a god marker on your bounty, now you're going to have to actually track them. You're going to have to figure out, okay, they were here, then they were here. They kind of have a pattern of going to this place and then this place. This seems to be their home base, so if I wait here, I'll get that bounty. And again, they'll have to kind of probably have to rethink the economics of that. That if somebody is waiting somewhere for 3 hours, was that going to do the cost of that bounty? Bounty Hunter V2, again, mid to late year, I would guess. It's probably coming with Pyro, unless they don't think they're going to be dropping Pyro this year, in which case they might just get it out to us just to see what we do with it. Building Interiors. This one's kind of a cool one, and I'm really looking forward to sort of seeing how far this one jumps out, in the next week or two after they've done their planning session, because this will start making all of those buildings at Lorville and Area 18, maybe even Orson and places like that too. Basically what it'll do is you'll have like a landing zone at the top, businesses at the top, living areas in the middle, and then like businesses at the bottom, like offices up at the top, and then like actual businesses where you can sell stuff down below, and then maybe even an underground part under that that's for like maintenance and stuff like that. But building interiors will greatly expand the play area of the game, especially in the Says. I guess exclusively the Says. You aren't going to have many building interiors out in the wilderness. Cargo system refactor. So I have this here, even though this is the 318 one. Again, this is just kind of a drop-in to kind of hold the place. They are talking about, like the team that they had on Star Citizen Live last Friday, they were talking about having to redo the economy, which triggered a lot of people. It was notable that Tony Z wasn't there, but I wouldn't read too much into that. They're going to redo the economy anyway, and they got to have the basis for Quanta to build off of. So in order for Quanta to say, this item is rare, it's going to be more expensive, or this item's in surplus, it's going to be less expensive, it has to know what that baseline is. So I think they might be setting that baseline, and then Quanta will come in and adjust off of that baseline, would be my guess. But they got to set that baseline for every single commodity. So if I'm correct, we're going to see a ton more commodities come in gradually, and hopefully we hear from Tony Z in some capacity, because Quanta did look really cool, even if it was extremely ambitious and probably overly complicated. Cave archetypes. So I just want to bring this one up because this was the sneak peek in the newsletter 2 weeks ago. I mean, look at that. That's going to be the new rock caves probably, or like a mud cave. Man, that is pretty. They are rolling out more caves. Character creator. So not much to say about this one. It basically expands the number of heads we have access to. Another thing that'll allow you to do, as opposed to grabbing this head and then this head and then using a slider, you could sort of say, I don't want my nose to look like that. I'm going to grab it and pull it out. What it will do is look at all of the heads that it has available for a nose that where it's roughly pulled out this far, and it'll give you that nose from that head. And it'll do the same thing with the other ones. And yeah, we should be able to make Rianu Keeves style horror shows with these things, but maybe not to an Uncanny Valley unrealistic way. Maybe. So charge drain. This is one that, along with fuel for EVA, there's also batteries for your multi-tool. So right now we don't have to deal with that. It's limitless. You can tractor beam a whole C2 empty 500 times. You can move stuff around a reclaimer's hole constantly for days on end. You're never going to run out of charge. Now you're going to start running out of charge. And if you start moving really heavy boxes, it'll probably run out of charge faster. So you're going to have to carry around batteries. Those batteries will fill up ammo slots. So you're going to have people that start specializing. So right now you have people such as myself that run around in heavy armor with 2 guns, basically kitted out for running bunkers, helping out Pup Wolfie and Yaz Queen, just loading up cargo when I'm bored or he needs the help. That won't be the case anymore. You'll need to actually suit yourself up and be prepared to do this kind of stuff, because charge drain will start to matter. Cutting tier 2, just kind of want to mention this one real quick. This is sort of the cutting that we've seen ever since the vertical slice for Squadron 42 a few years back, where they were actually cutting hinges on a grate so that it would drop out. And this will also allow you to freeform cut some specific objects, like I would assume doors. But that's coming at some point. When? Who knows? Docking ship to ship. So this one will have to happen before the Anvil Legionnaire will come out. Given the kind of issues that they're having with docking ship to station right now with the whole sea, this one might be in trouble, but you can sort of see the only team that's worked on ship to ship is Audio so far. You're going to have the vehicle feature team working on it before we're getting it. So once you see teams start working on this, more teams than Audio working on it, that's when they've started working on the Legionnaire. They think they're going to get the Legionnaire in. EVA Tier 2. Not much else I can say about the EVA model in the game right now, which is weird because back in like the 3.0 days, EVA actually wasn't that bad. And then something happened, I think around 3.10 or something. I guess the physics model or something changed. But it used to be you just kind of fly up, and if there was something in your way, your legs would kind of move out of the way. And then that changed, and all of a sudden your legs would just hit stuff and you just tumble and you'd spin around, and it was impossible to kind of orient yourself correctly, and it just became a huge pain in the ass. They also took away the ability to boost, but with this, especially when push-pull comes in, you'll just be able to jump. That'll be neat. Fire hazard. Again, fires are going to be dropping with the engineering loop. Are we getting it this year? I would hope so. I've said for a while, I don't think they'll drop the engineering loop in Pyro at the same time, because both of those things are going to break everything in the game. So you don't want to drop engineering and Pyro, and then you don't know if engineering broke a thing or Pyro broke a thing. And yeah, just sort of depending on how the replication layer goes, we may get Pyro first. But it sort of seems like engineering's a ways along, so that might be hot on its heels because of the fire. Flak ammunition. So flak ammunition, they've got a few special ammunitions out there. This one's had 45 weeks work, which is about right. That would be kind of a big, I would think that would make things like the Idris quite a bit more dangerous, because right now it's having to track fast moving fighters. For one, the Idris shouldn't be taking damage from light fighters, but I talk about that over in my combat loop exploration, so go check that video out. But flak ammunition would mean that it could spread an area and make it dangerous for light vehicles to fly through. So flak ammunition, one of the many cool new ammunitions that we may be getting, I think probably sooner than later. I would say next 3 to 6 months. So FPS radar and scanning is the ability to send out a ping when you're in first person, and you can actually see what's around you. The downside is that anyone that is pinged will be aware of it. So this is kind of the cheat mode for this game, where most first person like single player games and stuff like that will have some ability to look through walls briefly to kind of tell where the enemies are. That's what this is for this, except it's even less cheaty, because the bad guys could pick up on it and be like, someone just pinged me. We got a hostile nearby. Everybody goes on alert. So it would be kind of like a last ditch, I have to know if someone is near me kind of a thing. Or it could just be you're hunting someone and you don't care if you know they know you're coming. Freight elevators, talked about that one, but there it is. Again, in a couple weeks, we'll kind of know what they're thinking as far as how far along they are. Frontier clothing, looking forward to that one. That'll probably be a Pyro asset. They've rolled out some of the Frontier clothing for people in the little settlements that they have now, derelict settlements. But I would assume there's going to be a lot more, especially in Pyro drops. They're going to hold some things back. Grey Cat industrial cutter tool. Again, the industrial tools are the big ones. So those are the ones that are like rifle sized. 9 weeks on the weapon content team. Yeah, content team. they're not going to roll that out until they've done cutting tier 2, which we don't have yet. I don't think we have cutting in any capacity right now. You could kind of use it as a low power laser to blow up the drug labs, and you used to be able to open doors on ships with it, but I think it does so little damage now that it would not. Don't quote me on that. Gray Cat Sidnus mining drone. This is one, or droid, I guess. This is one that I think it was Execute and I have kind of been talking about this one. Kind of similar to how Board Gamer and I were always thinking that the next Christmas would be the year that they'd be releasing the big battle suit, which I forgot its name right now. I'm going to lose my Star Citizen card, but the Sidnus is the spider droid, which I just think would be an amazing ship to have in the verse. The question is, how would you transport it around? You'd have to have something enormous. Great Cat Industrial Salvage Tool. This one's in the PTU right now. It'll probably be getting in a week or 3 when we get the next patch. Hacking Tier 0, again, we're not going to be getting the Legionnaire until this one drops in the game. 127 weeks, there's a good chance that it's pretty far along the way. This is one that I thought for sure they would be talking about at SitCon, and they did not. So, is there more work to be done? Probably, or it was just sort of a lower priority to the things like the HUD visors, mobiGlas, things like that they wanted to show us, would be my guess. But Hacking Tier 0, I would assume we're going to be hearing more about that one as the year goes on. I don't know why I have that one open. Oh, I know why. Creating a mobiGlas app that emulates the functionality of ASOP terminals, allowing players to spawn ships, claim insurance, and access an array of landing services to maintain their ships. This is one that they did a long time ago. They just kind of had like a 10-week exploration sprint on it. But yeah, I would expect to see this make a return with a vengeance once we get our persistent hangers. Now, will it drop with the persistent hangers or after? I don't know, but we'll be getting our new mobiGlas. This could be one of the new apps that we get shortly thereafter, if not with it. Incendiary ammunition certainly sounds cool. Light stuff on fire, never a bad thing. I wonder if they're ever going to have it that we can light trees on fire. Life support, another engineering loop. Should be getting it near the end of the year, I would guess. Lockable containers. This is not like the containers that you see in Siege of Orison, where you punch in the code and open them. These you can actually cut the lock or hack the lock. So I guess it'll be similar to the Siege of Orison big cargo containers, but different. There you go. That's the kind of observations you come here for. Mag stripping and refill. Obviously right now, if you get a magazine down to like 3 rounds or so, typically if you're in between and you load in a new mag and you've got this one mag with 3 rounds in it, you'll probably take that and throw it on the ground. This will actually kind of, from what they've said so far, it'll kind of pool your ammo, and like the ammo that's not currently in your weapon, and you can spend a little bit of extra time loading and it will fill up that mag, and then you'll be able to put in a full mag. So it kind of does like I think it's kind of a compromise, kind of a decent compromise, as opposed to a physical system of you take this mag, you strip all the rounds out of this mag, you push them into this one. That's something that sounds cool on paper and is not so cool when you're actually just wanting to play the game. Depending on your mileage may vary. Map and radar system rework, obviously huge thing. Master modes, huge thing for the dogfighters. Mildly less huge thing for the people there in the industrial loops. MFD rework, BFD. Except actually BFD. Missile improvements. So this one, of course, is from 3.14. So missiles, they have just... They can't seem to get them right. Like, it seems like every other patch, they're either overpowered or underpowered. And right now, they're basically useless. Like, I don't know if you saw it during my little combat one where I was just out bounty hunting in a Corsair. But I'd fire off missiles and they wouldn't even hit the ship. And the ship would be holding still. And they would be electromagnetic missiles. And they just kind of, here's the ship, they just kind of go, woo, and just fly right over it. It's kind of like, why did I even bother? And there are other times where you just cannot break the lock. Like, no matter what you do, those missiles are going to hit you. CIG needs to dial that in, particularly before Squadron 42 rolls out. Mobiglass rework. Very cool. I'm waiting a long time for that. New missions. Cargo hauling. Again, we talked about that. Should be interesting. So far, what's in the game right now is trading, where you buy a commodity, you take it a place where you can sell it for the most profit. That's trading. You are buying something here, and then that guy doesn't care where you sell it. Hauling is somebody says, hey, you've got a ship that can carry X amount of cargo. Could you take this cargo from point A to point B, and they are paying you for that trip and whatever danger that puts you under? That is cargo hauling. And these missions will be interesting to see what rolls out for Tier 0. Steal recover cargo. So this is another one. This is kind of the dark side of the cargo hauling. You'll be called on to either get stolen goods back. I think that this will probably be one of those 2-tier generation missions where it'll generate a mission for criminals to go steal something. And then once they steal it, it'll generate the counter mission to come steal that back or recover it. Yeah, I guess you wouldn't be stealing it back, you'd be recovering. New player experience. So this is one, I do have a vid out there about what I think they should do for the new player experience. Basically, I think they should utilize the persistent hangars and the simulation pods, which they had in the earliest days, and they've still got in the game. If you go in Microtech and you kind of go to the Mac store and you go down into the basement of the Mac store where the Mobiglasses are, if you look over on the right hand side, they've got a bunch of simulation pods over there. I think that they should just put a simulation pod in the hangar and sort of say, hey, you're loading in here, we just want you to pass a competency test first. And then you could put people into a flight simulator during the whole sequence of getting down to the sim pod. You could kind of teach them, this is how you call up your Mobiglass, this is how you open a door, this is how you click on things, this is how you look at things. And then you get them through flying, where it doesn't matter if they blow up. They can blow up 500 times in the simulation until they feel comfortable and they're like, okay, I got this. And then it opens it up and says, you passed your competency test. And then they're in the verse. The advantage of that would be the hangar could be instanced anywhere. So you don't, right now they've made one for Microtech. They've made one for Area 18. I'm sure they're going to make one for Lorville. But are they going to make one for every major landing zone moving forward? Because that is going to eat up a ton of dev time, whereas an instanced hangar, you just have to do once. That would be my suggestion. Anyway, moving forward. Nyx. Pyro is definitely going to be the next system. The real question that most people have, and I've seen a lot of very optimistic posts out there of people thinking, oh yeah, they're going to definitely drop 5 systems on us. Do not count on that. They will probably drop Pyro on us to make sure everything's working, then expect them to spin in other systems very quickly. I've seen people say like Nyx and Terra are going to be in there. I would not expect to see Terra for a couple of years. We did see a white box like a decade ago, but they have completely changed the way that they do everything since that time. But anyway, Nyx, very small, very simple system. We've already had Delamar. and Levski in the verse for ages. So they just pulled it a couple years back, or a few years back. So Nyx would not be a hard one to sneak in there, but I would expect it to come after Pyro. So they'll do Pyro, make sure everything works, and then start rolling out systems. There are a few systems that I think would make sense to roll out very quickly after they're sure Pyro is working. Origin G12, this is their version of like the Cyclone, except it's enclosed, which is kind of an advantage. It's one of my favorite rovers. We should be getting it maybe September, maybe before that. We'll see. Orson mascot suit. So we saw this one in the videos around Siege of Orson, like the mock-up sort of trailer videos. You could sort of see the mascot in the background. They're probably not going to drop it into the game until, again, the NPCs are acting more natural, because seeing a whale mascot just T-posing or standing on chairs isn't going to do anyone any good. Persistent habs, persistent hangers. For whatever reason, I think habs are probably waiting on the building interiors before they implement them. But persistent hangers we're getting pretty quick here. And persistent streaming and server meshing, that's the replication layer and stuff. So in theory, we'll be seeing that. Rope simulation. They haven't talked about it, worked on it for 85 weeks. I think it's just one dev and they kind of hop on and off as they're doing it. So it's not 85 weeks straight of working on rope physics. What will they use it for? I couldn't really say. Exploration would be the first thing to pop into my mind, but you could also use it in areas where you don't have a tractor beam. You could still move cargo using pulleys, because that's part of what they're talking here. So algorithm of ropes to support ropes interacting with pulleys, improve general stability. Kind of cool. Plasma ammunition, there's another one. Player interaction, lockers, and inventory. So we're going to get a little boost to how we interact with our inventory. Visor and HUD update, we're getting that. Player reflection, I think this is another one they could sneak in there. Like, someone will just happen to be walking past the mirror in the bathroom on the cutter or something and be like, wait a minute, I can see myself. They're going to have to be very judicious where they put these mirrors, because mirrors double the number of polygons that they can see, because they have to draw everything that's behind your character that's typically culled out. So you wouldn't want to put like mirrors in, say, area 18 pointed upwards or pointed down the valley or something like that. It would just be awful. Prone V1. So this is one that they didn't mention in this, but I would be surprised if they left it out, because we saw prone at SitCon. It looked pretty good. Quantum simulation. So this is kind of what I wanted to use as my proof that Tony Z is still out there. And I mean, it's only been since 2019. So it's been, what, 5 years that they've been working on this thing. 143 weeks. That's a lot of dev time to just kind of be like, we don't want it. But they might. There is a certain type, or a certain amount of time, certain amount of effort. A good project manager will be like, hey, we gave it a good shot. We tried to make this thing work over and over and over again. It's just too complex for what we're trying to do. It would be a shame, because it was kind of one of the things that made me back this project in the first place. But that said, if they don't have quantum working, I'll still play the game. I mean, I loved the hell out of Privateer, and it didn't have quantum. It just had a basic beer's worth this much here, and you could sell it for this much here, and that's what you did. But yeah, so do I think Tony Z soft quit? No. Until I hear otherwise, I'm going to assume Tony's still here, Still working on Quantum. Quantum is still the plan, and that's what I'm going to stick with until I hear otherwise. Is that foolish? Probably. Rastar, in theory, at the end of the year, we'll be getting some version of this in our hands. Will it be super complicated or anything? No. Does it mean that we're getting the Pioneer? No. Refinery ships. This is something that is kind of cool. They have not talked about refinery ships, but it kind of closes the loop on mining. It might be a loop all on its own. I talk about this a little bit in my video on the mining loop, but refinery ships, their whole refinery loop could be a pretty complicated one all its own, depending on what direction CIG wants to go with it. I think that they probably hit somewhere in the middle ground where they don't make it overly complex, but it will definitely have a mini game, probably one where you have to worry about chemicals, pressure, heat, and time. Baking yourself some rocks. Reputation, hostility, yeah, those NPCs are not going to be liking you for too much longer if you kill their people. Which could mean, like me, I run bunkers a lot, and I kill a lot of Ninetales guys. Landing a Grim Hex might be an issue at that point. Reputation V2 kind of feeds into the same thing, that reputation is the advancement in this game. You don't have XP, you don't have skill trees, you have reputation. When your character encounters Death of a Spaceman, dies for the last time, you're going to lose that reputation that you built up with all these different factions. And that will be the cost of dying. It won't be losing your character tree or anything like that. It'll be this. It'll be that reputation hit. That if it's nothing else, like if you don't give a crap about your character, it's going to be the fact that you lose all of the benefits and perks of being aligned to a high degree with one faction or another. Resource management, again, huge part for engineering. And yeah, it's just going to be a big deal when this is in. Again, are we getting engineering before or after Pyro? I don't know. I think it's whatever one they can develop fast enough will be the one that they drop in. I would be shocked if they dropped them both on us at the same time. This will also be the system that feeds outposts and things like that, I would assume. So outposts won't just be magical creation centers and places where you can sell stuff. They'll actually have resource management, so their power comes from their solar panels that are going there. And if their solar panels are down, then they're not going to have the power to produce the thing that you want to buy, that kind of stuff. Will it get that complicated? I don't know, but they've mentioned things like that in the past. Rivers and basins, I fully expect them to keep expanding on this. Probably when Pyro drops, we'll start seeing lava. They had lava on here in the past. I don't know if it's still on there or not. Roads. So this uses the same tech as rivers and basins, but we haven't really seen it implemented yet, which is interesting, but not too surprising, because they haven't quite given us a reason to use ground vehicles outside of bunkers being a little more dangerous this patch. Rough and Ready faction, it's a Pyro faction. We'll see more about them later. They're the ones with all the tats, I believe. Again, watch the sitcom vid on them. RSI Apollo, again, this is one that the USVC team worked on. And I mean, clearly they worked on it 12 weeks, so it's finished. No, it's not finished. There's tons more work to do on this ship. It is, I think, slightly smaller than the Constellation. I want to say that it's like in between the Constellation and Freelancer in size. But ships, easy way to tell if they're sort of entering into the end game as far as whether they're going to be released or not. The audio and the VFX teams will be on there. There's no audio and VFX, so this is just a white box right here. RSI Polaris, obviously they're smoking on this. People keep saying, oh yeah, they're going to be dropping that. Actually, this guy in chat the other day was telling everybody that the Polaris was not chat on this channel, chat in the game, was, you all are smart. Anyway, he was saying that the Polaris was going to drop in June. And was just having like, or not even June, he was saying it would drop in Invictus. I was like, there's no way that's correct. They are not going to be dropping this ship that fast. Is not going to happen. And he was like, no, they are. You don't know what you're talking about. Eventually, I just sort of went, where are you getting this? He's like, I just really want to see the Polaris. I was like, dude, I get that. But when you tell everyone this is a thing that's happening, if there's a new player out there that doesn't know better and they're thinking this awesome ship is going to be in the game in 2 months or something, and that doesn't happen, that's how you get really salty people really early in the game. Anyway, RSI Polaris, I does look like they're moving on it pretty quick, but I wouldn't expect it before like IAE in what, September, October? No, I'm old. I forget time. Zeus. Zeus should start trucking along pretty quick. They look like they're moving pretty fast on it. Again, will it be in before IAE? I wouldn't think so. I think we'll probably get like a couple versions of it by IAE. Vehicle munching. So we have a version of this right now where the little claw comes out and sonically in space breaks apart the ship, and then you can sort of suck up the little particles. It's a solution. I don't really have a huge problem with it. It uses gravity waves to break the thing up. I would still say that you should do it where if the wreck hasn't been skinned, then that skin actually helps hold the ship together and makes it much harder to break or gives it a chance to blow up. Something like that. I think that you could add a little more incentive that you have to get the skin off the ship in order to munch it. Just sort of add that element in there. But vehicle munching, like whatever they're actually planning on doing, because basically what happened was apparently CR said, guys, we need to get moving on this. I want to see something by the end of the year. And so that claw coming out and sort of gravity blowing up the ship was their solution. They were just kind of like, this works. It's not what we want, but it works for right now. This is going to be what it really should be. So we'll get to see what that is in the coming months. So this is another one that I would expect to drop with engineering. So this is Security Network V1. And what this will do is allow you to give clearance levels to the people on your ship. Which is huge, because this is sort of the missing piece of multi-role gameplay right now. Like, I can't say, this person is just a visitor on my ship. They should not have access to the bridge. They can't control, like, the cargo elevator. I don't want them to be able to leave this room versus this guy is in my org and he's the pilot of this ship. So I want him to have, like, full captain control of this ship. This guy is the engineering full control. This guy's like a turret operator that I don't know that well. So he has access to that turret, but he can't go into the engine room. That sort of thing. All of that is going to be coming with the Security Network V1. When will we be getting it? Probably with or after engineering. When are we getting that? We won't know for a couple weeks until these bars start stretching out. I was going to give a little talk about these. I'm just going to kind of skip through these. Ship capacitors, ship and shield emitters, shield capacitors or shield emitters. When engineering comes in, where you hit a ship will start to matter. And if you know that ship, where these capacitors and these emitters are, you can actually kill the shields on a ship with very little firepower if you are accurate and you know where to hit. Like, if you're the kind of person that can drop womp rats at 200 meters, that kind of thing. Sliding, another one that we saw at SitCon for traversals. Hopefully we see it soon. I would think that would be one that they would sneak in. Solar burst, we've seen that in the PTU, the few times that they've showed it off with Pyro. Looks pretty cool. Space mines, I've said for a long time, this one's been done for a while. It took them a 54-week sprint. I think right before the pandemic or right around the pandemic. I would expect probably in Pyro you're going to start having interdictions. They're just minefields where you're going to drop out and you're going to be like, oh, there's no ships around. All of a sudden, you're going to start getting like a just mines flying in at you. Would be awesome. Space whales, a lot like the Boreal Stalker. I would expect that they're going to sneak animals in on us. Space whale would be another really cool one to sneak in on us. The tracking app, again, this is another new mobiGlas app that they would drop on us when they drop the new mobiGlas. Obviously, there would be no reason to drop this before they drop Bounty Hunting V2. But if they drop Bounty Hunting on us before Pyro, maybe with the new mobiGlas, maybe we get to see that in action, or at least Tier 1. Let's see. So now we are down into the unannounced ones. This is always cool to speculate. So this one has been done for, I think, 5 years, which tells me it is probably something. What's interesting is that it's not a Squadron 42 asset, but I think it might be related to Squadron 42. So it's a concept that they're holding out until after Squadron 42 is dropped, or it's something for Pyro. One of the things I was thinking that it might be is some kind of water vehicle, like a boat, an actual boat. Would make sense. And it's just waiting for the other tech to come into the game before it could get in there, because it's just concept art. 12 weeks is like a mid to large ship, so think something like Freelancer Connie size typically when it's just the JPEG. 12 weeks, if it's a known manufacturer and that kind of stuff, it could be a bigger ship. If it's something alien or something they haven't done before, 12 weeks could be something small. So, always hard to say. Narrative team, 2 weeks. If it's just the narrative team, they're just kind of doing a write-up of, we need a ship that can do this. Again, vehicle concept art, 15 weeks. Again, you're looking at like a medium ship. 28 weeks is a big ship. Again, this is just the JPEG. 28 weeks, that's something large. I would guess this is going to be something for Invictus. Seems safe. 23 weeks is the Montreal team. 23 weeks is not a real long time. This might be that little microbike that we saw or something similar. Maybe the Ranger. It'd be cool if they snuck the Ranger in on us. Ranger is the actual motorcycle. They've been having some problems implementing the two-wheeled physics. They really want it to feel right. So maybe not. 11 weeks EU VC team. So again, this one's going to be straight to viable. 11 weeks is a real quick sprint. So this is something small. So a bicycle or a jetpack. Underground facilities. So this is this guy right here, the distribution centers. It's not the full implementation of them. Again, the underground facilities is the entire thing, obviously by the name. It's the underground part of it that would be the entire thing, but they're going to roll out the top part of us, the above ground part of the underground facilities to us. Underwater rendering acoustics, I still think they're going to do more with underwater. I mean, they flat out said they are, but maybe that's a submarine. Who knows? Vehicle door improvements. So this is one that I want to talk about. This one, in theory, was one that they worked on probably 2 or 3 years ago. But one of the improvements it would do is, like, let's say you have a ramp and it comes down and the ground is here. Now what will happen is your ramp will actually go into the ground, and then your ship has to fight it. Well, do I pop the ship up so the ramp is on the ground, or do I have the ramp in the ground? And sometimes your ship will just start jumping around because it can't make that decision. It'll take damage and now your ramp is stuck down. This would actually change that, where if your elevator came down and it like hit a rock or something, it would stop there. Same thing with the ramp. If it came down and it hit the ground, you might just have a ramp that's sitting at this angle as opposed to this angle and in the ground. We haven't seen this yet. This, even though they finished 26-week sprint, back here in Q4 of 2021, We haven't seen it yet. So hopefully we do. Vehicle names and serial numbers. So I'm wondering how many people have noticed this, or if you noticed it and you're just kind of like, what the hell is that about? That you'll be flying up, you'll see a ship and it'll say Y-241-876Z or something like that. Those are actually the serial numbers. That wasn't happening before this patch. This might be a good sign that they are going to start rolling out vehicle names again to us, but every ship has a unique serial number now. So if you see a ship with a serial number, that is the only ship that has that serial number, and that is what shows up when you look at a ship that doesn't have a player in it. And I have long argued that what they should do for names on vehicles is not the name of the player that's piloting, but the name of the ship. Of course, you can't do that until all ships can be named. But I would hope that's the way they do it eventually. So you could, because if I'm the captain but not the pilot of my Banu Merchantman, and you were looking for me, and the pilot's name was on that one, you'd be like, well, that's not his Banu Merchantman. He's got to be on a different one. But if it was the name of the ship and you were looking for the name of the ship, like the Millennium Falcon, no, I'm not going to name my Banu Merchantman Millennium Falcon, but you get the idea. You're looking for that ship and you know it's there. Belligerent Duck. Visor lens rework. Got it. Well, we'll have it shortly, like in the next 6 months. Volt Parallax. So we haven't seen any of these Volt weapons yet. We know they're more or less finished. They might be one of those things that's waiting for Squadron 42 to roll out. But yeah, we haven't seen them yet. They might They might start sneaking them. They might start sneaking them into loot boxes, so keep an eye out. Again, more capacitors, you hit a ship in the right place. They'll shut things off. Wheeled vehicle physics. So a lot like missiles, they haven't quite nailed this one yet. The vehicle physics feels better in this patch, but still needs some work. Like I was, hang on a sec. Okay, this is actual footage of a buggy on the moon. This is, I believe, 1/6 the gravity of Earth. Now, if you look at this, do you see it like trucking up on one wheel anytime it goes over something like this? 1/6 the gravity. That vehicle there is not heavier than a Cyclone. But yeah, so watch it drive around. And this is probably a bit slower. I'm going to see if I can speed it up here. That's probably more accurate. But look how this vehicle works. And this is the moon. Like, the gravity on the moon is not higher than anything we have. And I mean, yeah, it loses some contact, but it is grounded. It is stuck to the moon. So yeah, wheeled physics needs work. GN facial rigging, GN cargo less notable. So one thing that is notable about this is they did GN facial rigging. I don't believe it had the PU on there until this time around. I could be wrong about that. But this could mean that the first aliens we see in the verse will be the GN. We're definitely going to see them in Squadron 42, which is kind of surprising. You expect it to be Tavarin because they're actually a part of the UEE. They're citizens of the UEE, so I would expect to see some Tavarin in the engagements in Squadron 42. Apparently not, unless they did it on the sly and they just didn't tell us. I would expect to see Banu because they're kind of traders everywhere, including trading with the Vanduul. And we know there are Banu slavers involved in Squadron 42 because they were mentioned in the vertical slice. But the only one that they've done facial rigging on is the GN. So I don't know what that means. But it does mean that Jian, we might be seeing some aspect of them soon, this year maybe. Zero-G push-pull, that'll be the next stage of zero-G movement, where as opposed to using your jets to move around, you'll be able to actually push off of things or use your hands to move, and that way you're not using the fuel for your thrusters, which we'll eventually have. And gang, that is it. Let me know down in the comments if you feel like I missed something, if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, if you think I suck. Just let me know that. That always makes me feel great on a Thursday. Till then, be good. Catch you next time.